Hey everybody. Well, I feel like the people that is here, I know a lot of people, but anyway. So I'm Cristina Chumillas. You can find me as Cristina on Drupal.org. I'm a lead engineer at Lulabot and UX lead at Drupal CMS, and also I do a bunch of things on Drupal core and especially on the UX side of things. But what are we going to talk about today? So first, a small overview on the product definition and the strategy for Drupal CMS. An overview of what's user-centered design, just in case not everybody knows it. And then we're going to drive through to get an overview of what has been happening so far on Drupal CMS, which is basically UX-related things and definition, and obviously UI design. And especially at the end, I will give you some actionable next steps and ask for help. So let's start with the product definition and strategy. You all have been into Dri's keynote, I think, and I hope. So I don't want to go into the product strategy itself, but I think it's really important from that side of things to highlight two things. First is that we're going to focus on the no-code persona for building things. And that's really strategic in terms of how we are prioritizing features, how we are going to test things, and all the things around the product itself. So basically, so one of the big changes with the Drupal CMS has been a road around how we coordinate and how we organize ourselves. The thing that the Drupal CMS has brought is a clear direction on what to work on. And that has been super helpful to establish a roadmap and people know what or where we are actually going. But it's also super important that we are getting this, people know that whatever they build or whatever they do, it's going to be applied, it's going to be used. It's not that I've had this crazy idea and let's see if I convince people to use my module. It's actually a goal. We can actually give people specific tasks to work on. It's also a way to unify the goals and to get everybody working towards the same direction. Also, something that has been a huge change is the way that we've collaborated with each other, because basically we established tracks, we had meetings, we have specific channels for that. So it has actually completely changed the way that we've been working so far. And I'm not sure if you've seen the draft, the graph that was shown at the Dri's note, but one of the big impacts that the Drupal CMS has actually had already is a huge increase on contribution. So we could see on previous years that the contribution, not just the new people, but contribution in general was a little bit not growing exactly fast. But with Drupal CMS the graphic is incredible. So I think that's a huge point to take here. So in terms of product definition, Dri said that, and I'm still calling it Starshot. But after some work in here and a small survey with actually marketers, the final name, it was decided to be Drupal CMS, basically because it keeps the CMS in the letters, because with Drupal itself, we wouldn't have enough. And also some other companies are already using, or were already using before Drupal CMS, the concept CMS. So it's kind of not a completely new concept. And there were other alternatives like Drupal Plus and other things, but the fact that there is the CMS on the board, that's one of the reasons that it was actually useful. So user-centered design, does anybody know here what it is? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to actually mention it, but who knows it? What is user-centered design? Okay, a few people? Good, so it's going to be useful the next slide. So what it is, it's basically a tool like to focus on users, to design solutions based on the need, not a great idea that somebody can have. It's actually to solve a need, to solve a problem that the user actually has. It's also based on an iterative process. It means that whatever you come up with, you're going to test that, and you're going to try to make sure that involves feedback, and you're actually solving the real need or the real problem. And it's also empathy-driven. Basically, the goal is to build that empathy and this knowledge about the user. So basically, the goal is like every decision has the user in mind. And also, it focus on the outcome and not on crazy ideas that are not like the goal itself. So like, the goal is actually to come up with solutions. And why we are actually using user-centered design? So basically, to focus on real users, and the real users are the marketers and creators. They are not developers, and that's an important thing. Developers are the ones that are creating Drupal, but they are not the main persona or the main user or the main needs or the main directors of the jobs that we need to solve. So it's also important to get a product that it's easy to use, to simplify the real workflows that these people is actually going to do and go through every day. And we want to increase adoption. And we need to make things easier to use, to solve the real problems, to actually make people use Drupal. And obviously, the continuous improvement, because even though we've tried to do the best with the 8 months that we've had, we will need to keep improving. And whatever happens, like technology is evolving all the time. So continuous improvement, it's like something really important that we need to keep in mind. So if we talk about UX itself and what it has meant for Drupal CMS and what's the work that we've been doing so far, we could divide that into things, into main sections. The first one would be UX research. And that would mean that the role itself of the UX has actually changed on how we define the product. For example, we've focused on problems and not on features. It's not that much about like defining which things it's going to have. It's actually trying to solve what's the things that the user is going to need. So if the user wants to create content, we are not going to come up with a crazy feature to create content. We're going to try to see what's a workflow that usually the user follows to do that. We want to understand the users. We want to simplify the huge complexity that Drupal has. As I was saying, we want to iterate and improve whatever we come up with at the beginning. It will necessarily need to be improved. And we want to bridge teams because a lot of times are the developers that are the ones that have the power to implement the things. But a lot of times, the people that actually have the knowledge about what the user needs is actually the designer or the UX person, or even the business, or like the marketer, the people on sales. So basically, the UX can actually play a huge role in here on like bringing information to one place from another. So some of the initial questions that we had, and yes, this is generated with AI, first AI prompt that I did to get an image. Anyway, so what problems are actually user-facing with current CMS solutions, not just Drupal? And those problems are actually the same for all the CMS, or most of the CMS, they will have similar problems. Also, which are the features that those users need, and how can actually Drupal CMS go and solve that need? So, and this is super important. We had constraints. The first one was the timeline. Dries went into the scenario and said we have 8 months, and 8 months, that's what we had. Basically, while we got 2 weeks extra, like which It's for January, but it's basically 8 months. So that was a huge constraint. So we had the hands that we had to work on the thing, so that was actually another problem or another limitation that we had. Is like the amount of people that we can work with. So we, especially on the UX side of things, we had very few people. But it's not just about the people, it's just about the information that they had. Because basically, so in general, we were coming up with a new context or a new product. So that means that actually nobody had the context and the knowledge of the product itself. But also the fact that there is not a lot of UX experts involved in the community means that they don't have like the whole picture. So if not even the leadership team had that initially like the whole picture, how can you actually get UX people to go and define things? So we were really, really low on like people that could actually go and define things. And another obvious important point is the high complexity of the product that we were building. Drupal is complex. Creating something on top of Drupal is complex. And also, you know, people in the community always have opinions. So that was another of the things. So basically, we had to build the knowledge about the user from scratch. There wasn't some literature of that out there, but we are creating a new product. So basically, we need to like define all that. So basically, we started several things at the same time, but one of the things that happened was like the user interviews, and that's a great way to actually build the knowledge about the users. And basically, when we defined that we were going to target the market persona, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Basically, we needed to know what was the CMS experience of those users. We needed to know which were their main roles. So we interviewed people, builders or shared hats. This is something I'm going to talk later, but also content creators and marketers. And the location was basically English speakers countries, because those are the people that were available to actually do the surveys, and that's one of the reasons we don't see anything highlighting multilingual, for example. But it was helpful at least to know what the marketers wanted. So from these people, we got some feedback. For example, for Drupal, we have surprise a high learning curve. We have a clunky interface. The perception is that Drupal itself is a super developer-centric tool and really complex, and obviously hard to navigate. The interface, if you have so much flexibility and so much complex, it's complicated. And also, that's really important for a lot of people, is that the talent pool were really, really low. Like compared to WordPress, people just choose WordPress a lot of times because they don't find enough developers or people to build actually the site. The reasons to actually choose a CMS, not Drupal, not another, but the reasons that they usually the reasons that they pointed out were like time to build, friendly UI so people can actually understand and do whatever they want to do. The capabilities for the content management, like examples were versioning and approval workflows, but also DAM integrations, like integrations in general, but specifically the mentioned were like the DAMs, and also the SEO capabilities. And the opportunities that came up from those interviews were basically the ease of managing content. We can help a lot on that. The capacity that we could have for customizing the look and feel, the community and the community and the parent organization support. It meant that for a lot of people, the reliability of the product was super important. So something that didn't help lately was like the open source WordPress drama. So I got a lot of people talking about, is it's an open source tool reliable? If there is drama and somebody retires half of the tool, how I'm going to maintain my site? So it was a concern for some people. And obviously, the ability to have decoupled, although, well, it wasn't like super, it was mentioned just for, by a few of them, but it was mentioned. And also a hosted solution with security and update management. So basically those were like the opportunities that were highlighted from those interviews. Something that we also did at the beginning, I'm basically explaining you what we all tried to work on, like to set the ground that we were going to start working on. The market segmentation and target markets, the goal was to empower non-technical users. We wanted to focus the features on marketing tools, and the target budget for these markets, these sites was between like 30, 120K American dollars. That's the American marketplace. It's different for Europe, and if you go to Spain, it's completely different. But it's like scaled down or up to whatever country you are. So in terms of the market segmentation, this work was provided by the people that started working on the experience builder, and it was really, really helpful because it's basically placing ourselves in the place that we want to play. So we have like bigger companies that are less sensitive to price, but it's super important, the security, for example, and on the other side, like the big one on the left would be like a corporate marketing website, for example, and on the other side would be like a small business owner. So between those, we don't want to go to the small ones. We don't want to go to the big ones. We want to play in this nice spot in the middle, and that's where we can actually compete with WordPress, like in bigger sites, but like with, and win the competition with a lot of the capabilities that actually Drupal has. We've actually done a lot benchmarking with competitors. At the beginning, it was like, let's try to benchmark whatever we need to design at this moment. But over time, we ended up building a tool, and it's been really helpful to see what the competitors are actually doing. Those are the competitors that we've been testing on. This is like an example of like the different things that we've been testing on each of them. Basically, a bunch of people have done like a lot of testing and screencast or like screenshots from each of these tools on its, for example, the installer or the dashboard, or I don't know, URL structure customization. How do they do that in other platforms? So we've done a lot of research to actually come back to our side of things and redesign what we have or improve. So until here, we were kind of like setting the ground, or where are we playing? And then on the UX definition, and this is important because we have done this all at the same time as the development had already started. We didn't have any other option. In a classic project or product definition, things would go completely different, but we basically had to start all at the same time. So in a normal project, probably all the UX research would have happened before, then the UX definition, and probably later some of the features would start, but here we did all at the same time. So basically, thanks again to the work that already happened on the experience builder side of things, we had like a bunch of user personas. We had like the buyer archetypes, but we also had like content editors, people that would build. Strategists also are important in some sections or some like companies or markets. But basically, as you can see, there's a bunch of people here. Who doesn't know what a user persona is? Okay, so basically, it was great, but we had too much information, and it was really complicated to communicate to stakeholders, to developers, where we needed to focus. So we created these archetypes, and you can find them on Drupal.org on the Starshot UX section. And we basically, based on all these personas, we basically came up with 3 main archetypes. From these 3 main archetypes, probably the summary of this would be, We are building things for the builder or share hats archetype to actually solve the needs of the marketer. Because probably the marketer is not going to be the person coming and building the site. A lot of times it will, but it's not necessarily like that. And then we are providing a UI or a set of features that are going to solve the needs of the marketer with the capabilities of the builder or the share hats. And those capabilities, don't get me wrong, they are no-code people. So it doesn't mean that we're building things for developers or junior developers, which we are kind of, but it's basically no-code, no Drupal experience. So that's the thing that we're keeping in mind. And obviously the content editor, but like the content editor comes a little bit later. We're targeting the people that is actually go and build the site. So from after like being able to set and define the user personas and who are we actually building things for, we needed to define which things are like the most important ones. And as I was saying, one of the most important things is that we needed to define things quick. And on an ideal world, we would define user flows, we would go and say, okay, this parting here is the most frustrating for the user, we are going to change all this, but we didn't have time for that. So basically we had over time, a lot of sessions where like product people, developers, UX people would sit together ideally for 1 hour several times, happened to be like more than 3 hours meetings, trying to define which were the workflows for each of the things that we needed to define. So that was really helpful to involve several stakeholders and experts, not just, as I was saying, UX, but also product owners and managers and developers. Apart from that, we also did a lot of like task mapping, which tasks the user in general needs to do, but also the jobs to be done. The jobs to be done, it's basically like the marketer or the share hat or the builder, what needs these people need to do, for example, create content types. And also defining which were actually the critical user journeys to create new tasks, to create new features, sorry. So from all this, basically, we created the content strategy. The goal was basically to provide a quick way for marketers to build websites with user-friendly content types. Basically, you can see that the news and article / blog, they are actually two content types, but they are named different. It means because depending on the content, the project that you are actually creating, the content needs to be named differently because the goal that you're going to have is different. Even in some strange case, you maybe need news and need blog. It can happen. So they're basically two completely different recipes and you can choose. And the same for the project and case study. So we came up with these basic content types for B1. And basically, there were like content strategies, specific people that were like helping out on there, but also like the whole UX team were involved. And basically the goal was coming up with a good structure to reuse fields, for example, for SEO. If the SEO is going to have like title, description, and image, all the content types will need to have that. So this kind of coordination helped a lot on getting the different tracks agree on things. As I'm saying, the SEO, for example, but media, which is the name of each of the media fields that are going to be used. So where are they actually going to be placed on the form itself? So these things that usually are left for the developer that is creating the content type in here were actually defined. So in a way that it's for the developers creating the recipes can actually come and build based on that. So the idea is that this is going to be an iteration, again, an iteration plan because we need to ship with something at the beginning. And then from here, we're going to expand this content model with community feedback and any additional need that comes up. And basically, we came up with some example scenarios like a community website, a portfolio website, and a small business website. And then we crossed all this information with the schema.org types, and we kind of validated these content types, all of them. So this is the V1. In the future, we will ideally have something that we still call it flavors of Drupal. Let's see how this concept evolves, because the goal is to have like tailored configurations to address user needs, to simplify the site creation, so people will actually go and click and choose between different use cases, ideally like what I was saying, for example, a community website or a project, a small business website, for example. And in there, maybe you don't need to choose the content types that we actually decided on the V1. You maybe in the future, based on choosing a small business, all of that is generated for you. But we still need to define all that, and it's work in progress. So we started with creating the content types, and that's the thing that we show to the users for now. So on UI design, again, sorry, no, just seeing this, the notes, and I have the next one before. So something that I mentioned already is that we're going through an iterative testing and improvement process, because basically we can't ship what in an ideal world would be. So we're shipping with the best that we've been able to ship. And then we're defining a plan to do user testing. So if you know people that will not just test, but help testing things, help out on a group for testing things. No, later I have a list of things that I need from you all, but please keep in mind, because we need to like not just feedback, but also testers using testing this and providing the feedback. So almost finally, the thing that people think when you talk about design is basically UI design. This parting here was complex because we were coming from Claro, which is the Drupal core admin theme. But as you all know, this is coming with Gin. So we went through a lot of conversations, and we kind of like gave a step back. And we first defined a style spectra. Since we were coming up with a new completely product, we need to define what's this product going to communicate. And historically, Drupal has always tried to be agnostic, not opinionated, in the background. And was that actually what we needed? And we did this style spectra with, we did 2 rounds. One was the stakeholders and like product managers and a lot of Dries and a lot of people. And then we did another one with admin UI experts from the Drupal community. And basically, we agreed, we ended up on the same land, but basically the goal was to have something that is more playful, more modern. So basically in the style spectrum, as you can see here, for example, do you want something more flat or more dimensional, serious versus playful, unique versus more familiar, conservative versus progressive. So basically, we tried to define how the UI needed to look like. After that, we decided that it wasn't just enough on how it looks like, it's also important how it communicates. So, for example, I'm not sure if you've all used MailChimp. MailChimp, it's not just fun in terms of like the graphics that it shows, it's also like how it communicates. So one of the things that we did is that Design and Voice workshop, and in here, it's not just the UX team that was involved, was also like the marketing team that was integrated. And from this, we generated the guide for the user UX copywriting and the marketing material that we needed to write. And this part, 1 second. So this part was like the thing that I was talking about. This was not complicated to decide that Jean was going to be the admin theme, but it was complicated to sort out how we're going to move from here. Okay, we enable Jean, done. No, it's not just enough. We need to design new parts of the admin interface. So basically, we created a design team that created a design system based on Jean. And as I'm saying, we basically came up with all the style spectra and all these things, but we have Jean. And if we want to build new admin interfaces, we need to have something to work on. And you would say, oh, just give Figma to a designer and they're going to come up with something. But the first question that the designer is going to ask to you is like, which is the font size that I need to use? Which is the color? Which is the style for buttons and all the things. And that's a lot of work. And you can't just throw a designer into design me this nice UI that I just came up with this feature and just make it pop. But you need like a design system behind that. So we basically got a bunch of designers that during 2 months created this design system. And that maybe eventually we will evolve into that style spectra, but right now they are already producing new UIs. So for example, one of the new things provided is like the new installer. Another thing is like the dashboard. I'm not sure if you've installed the Drupal CMS, but there is a new dashboard. This is a screenshot, like the block on the middle, it's not there yet. It will be, but basically the designers were able to quickly come up with new interfaces because there was already a design system behind that. The recipes page, for example, it's using cards that were used and defined somewhere else. Some redesign is happening for the project browser also, so there's a lot of like work that is going to be supported in this design system that was created. The new navigation, this new navigation, we came up with some designs and then we adapted that to use Jean, but not also that. We also created the new top bar that was coordinated with Experience Builder team because it's going to use the top bar on the front. And if you go to Experience Builder, it's going to use the same sections on Experience Builder. So whatever you have in Drupal, when you jump and go inside Experience Builder, like you're going to have buttons on the right, you're going to have like the title in the middle. So it's basically been coordinating like with designers from Akia, like several people. It's been really helpful to be able like to see it all together. And we only have 5 minutes, so this is the last and please most important one. So I'm not a big fan of quotes, but I know the Americans are. Sorry, the people from the US. So I needed to put one in here. So you can all read that, just stay with the systems part. We need to create a system to get designers involved. So these designers stay, have a way to work, and this way we will be able to have a Drupal that looks fine. Not nice, or looks fine, because the problem is that designers leave. Actually, Dries mentioned that on the keynote like really fast, but it's important. Louis Newman was in Drupal for a long time, and he left. But he came back when he saw that we were working again with user-centered design, and that's not a small thing. So we can actually have a community of designers. Magdalena is a person that, as a designer, that Droptica paid starting on September. And she was, the first day she was like, okay, because it was like, she lives in Polonia, and I'm not sure in English, yeah, it's Polonia. Poland, yeah, Polonia in Catalan, sorry. Anyway, so we had people from the West Coast, so it was really complicated. And she was like, well, my time finishes in half an hour. 2 weeks later, she was saying, no, okay, I can just stay later, start later, and I stay, and I'm really fine. Last week, she was like, no, I'm really loving, and I'm enjoying this so much, I'm learning so much, so we really can have a community of designers that can work together, play, and learn a lot, the same as the Drupal community has. So that's, if we create the system, we can have these people, and most important, make them stay. So one of the challenges that we have is that designers don't have experience in Drupal most of the time. And to learn Drupal, like most of them is like, wait, recipes? But you install models, and those are recipes? Pam is laughing because it took like 2 hours for Magdalena to understand what were recipes. And it's normal, it doesn't make any sense. And that's good because she came out and said, okay, you can't just say recipes to somebody that is a marketer trying to understand Drupal because it's not going to be useful. So it's important to have people that are not developers to actually explain and use the UI to explain that. And it's also important to have this vision, like we will need to have like designers that understand the limitations of Drupal. So we will need like specialists and people that will be able to make decisions when they have the knowledge. But also we will need people that own each of the different parts so they can go and create all these parts. And as you can see here, we need to build a stable testing group, for example. So we need commitment from the community. It's really important. We need people that can be onboarded. It basically can take at least 2 months to onboard new designers. So it's crucial that they stay. So we would love to have people that can stay like 1 to 5 days per week. I would love it. On a firm and long-term time frame. Magdalena, for example, started in September. And she's going to stay around, but some of the designers at Lullabot, they've been like trying to understand what Drupal is for years. Okay, I'm finishing. That's the important part. Okay, just take a screenshot. If you know somebody that can start helping out, this is the thing that we need. We need people to come, learn, and own the things. That's super important. If you know a designer, please take that designer and bring it to me. Just send me an email, whatever. We need people. Let them get inside the Starshot UX marketing. If they are afraid of Slack or whatever, just drop me an email, DM to me. I'm happy to mentor whoever. If they are staying, I've done like that several times. And the most painful part is if they leave. So please, if you know a company that can support, not just with developers, but also with designers, I'm just happy to stay until midnight for the time zone, wake up, well, not at 4 a.m. in the morning, but I can maybe once for one a while. So we need help. Thank you.
Hi, Ideal here from Malaysia. Just want to say that I love that you're using Figma slides. That's a refreshing thing. Okay, so obviously I'm a Figma user. My background is design. So I wish to meet up with more designers here, which it's a very small group. Hopefully in the coming years, I would like to see more designers. And this is so refreshing, I can tell you that. I'm also a Webflow user, right? And
interesting.
Yeah.
We need this information. Come in.
And also, but originally, I first had experience with Drupal back when Drupal was 5, 6, then 7, 8, and now 10.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So yeah. So it's not really a question, but more of a hopeful thing. I just want to tell you that it's really it's hopeful for us Malaysians, especially to see Drupal making a resurgence, to make a comeback. So I don't know. It's again, not a question, just a comment. I'm excited about this, and yeah, I'm probably going to be one of your guinea pigs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was an amazing session.
Thank you.
I was really intrigued by the spectrums you had on the playfulness versus more stoic or whatever the axes were on the. And I remember you saying that the Jin system was an existing design system, and it didn't actually match the the spectrum ones, the desired spectrum of stuff, and I wondered what your future plans were for getting it there. Is the Gin team amenable to becoming that, or is it a forking thing or a completely new thing? Or is this too early
Thanks.
to decide?
Do you see the elephant in the room? So yeah, that's a big question. We need to be cautious in here. We want to respect the fact that Sasha is not full-time invested. So he has sponsors, but he's not full-time on that. So we need to be aware of like the weight and the amount of work that we're like throwing to Gin, and we don't want to like kill the project because it's really important. It has brought like a lot of innovation and new capabilities to the admin interface. So we need to have a process. That's why Sasha has been really involved on that from the beginning, day one, on that design system. And then the next steps will depend a lot on his capacity to stay involved. But also we are building this design system and this community around this design system of designers that can go and design new things. So once we ship with B1 and the few other things, like big things that we need to redesign, like the style of Gin, the style of the admin interface will need to evolve. And then in here, the role that Gin wants to have, it's something that Sasha will need to decide. And from here, we'll come up with a plan. So I will let the elephant say the rest, but I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I think you had a great point before, just to add on to that we need to evolve Gin, but we also need to use a lot of admin components on the front end. So we need to put more on that front as well. And I just wanted to add that Sasha is looking for sponsors, so that's another area where
that's
you can
important.
Help. So if you have money and you want to help make Gin better, then he's definitely open for more sponsors.
Yeah, also related to that, it's without like taking the importance that Gin and Sasha and his co-maintainer are actually looking for sponsors, is that a big part of the admin interface is going to land into Experience Builder lands, meaning that Experience Builder is taking over of the admin interface step by step. So that side of the design is also actually going to evolve too. So, wow, there are several questions. Thank you. I won't feel bad.
Hi. Is there a plan to make the hosting facility, to make it accessible? Is there a plan to, as WordPress,
hosting?
The hosting for Drupal CMS. So in terms of making it truly accessible, is it going to be as you can with WordPress? You can just fire it up in an instance and go with it, or do you see it as two separate steps?
The try Drupal trying, or just moving later to the final hosting provider? Both?
Sorry, to make it accessible to a mid-market, mid-marketeer.
Okay.
For them to find hosting, to then put it on and all the rest of it, or is there a plan for a platform within Acquia or whatever?
So there is a plan that is being defined. I'm not sure how much is defined. No, I see somebody from the DA in there, but maybe. The DA is coming up with a plan. Not sure how defined, how and when it will be available. We definitely need a tool to try Drupal. So that's going to be the first step. Next step is the hosting, and in here I don't have like the knowledge. I know that's a conversation happening, but 8 months. Any other question?
Got time for one more question?
Designers, please come to me later, or friends of designers.
Since there's time and no other questions, I will say the association, like, we're not going to get into the hosting business as like an official Drupal CMS
Yeah, sorry,
hoster.
I didn't mean that.
So, yeah, it's always going to be companies with providing hosting for Drupal, and they hopefully make it easy to.
Yes, exactly. That's a key point.
Hopefully they make it easy to use their product and pay them.
Yeah, basically, like, make this process easy. That's what I can say. What happens behind it?
We do also want a way to demo Drupal CMS.
Yes.
And there's a couple ways to do that. The first try at that was use WebAssembly. But the person who knew everything there does not have time to work on that. So, we're looking for a partner association. We're looking for partners to either pick up that work or do something different on a more hosted basis.
Yeah, what Tim was pointing is that it's not just that he didn't have time. The whole thing was complex. Let's just leave it at.
Yeah, and a lot of times things fall to the association as like last resort to fix something, and we don't have more bandwidth.
No, you can double yourself and be 20 of you. Thank you, though, for all the work anyway. But it's important, there is going to be something for that, eventually. Thanks, everybody.